Здравствуйте,
Привет, я Таня.
я Савена.
Мы изучаем русский язык в Галфой.
Мы будем говорить по-английски, потому что мы новые студенты. And today we are going to talk about the Russian film Hipsters.
Which in Russian is called Stiliги
Стиляги.
and or Stiliги.
Nah. We thought it'd be fun to make a little video because there's not a lot of English explanations on the film. We have some questions from our Russian professor that we'll be cycling through.
Yeah, so the first question is, what was our overall impression for the film? And honestly, it was really eye-opening because it um, took place during the Soviet era, and it was like in the 50s when Western music was banned, as well as certain instruments, and really like people could be persecuted or arrested for enjoying this music and partying and dressing in a Western way.
Mhm. Yeah, I had never seen a Russian musical before, so I thought that was really sweet. Question 2 is, what do you think about the imagery, cinematography, music, and/or ideas of the film that you've watched?
I thought overall it was like a really beautifully put together film. Super artistic, and you know,
Yeah, I really liked all the color in the film because most Russian films I've seen are like Western depictions of Russia painted in a very bleak, black and
gray.
white, factory-esque light. So it was cool.
And how does this film address, revise, or reinforce cultural and or socio-political developments and ideologies of its historical time?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I feel like you know a little bit more about Russian history and culture than I do.
Um, so I guess like for me, even if I might like I just didn't know that Russians would smuggle Western music on X-ray copies,
Mhm.
and they'd like copy it onto these X-rays that they cut into circles so they could play it on their record players. And there were moments in time where like these black markets, like in the film, people would get caught and arrested just for trying to sell like these record copies.
Yeah, yeah, the scene where his friend set him up to be arrested.
Exactly. And also, so Mels, the main character, he used to be part of the, I guess this
What do they call them? Like the
culture police.
police?
I don't know. And basically, it's this group um, that kind of is like a, I guess, citizen police over the
Like a
under
Boy
the
Scouts
yeah
almost.
yeah under like the Communist Party, and they'd be the ones chasing after all the Stiligis and the hipsters, and he basically defected and joined the hipsters just because he was curious and also in love with a girl Polly. um, and at some point he was like, I want to learn the saxophone, and he went to the black market to try and find one, and the first thing that someone like offered was like, no, but I have a machine gun. And it was, I think that was like a comparative, it was meant to compare like the gravity of trying to buy that instrument is like on par with some, weapon that can do a lot of harm. And so the fact that he got it, like there kept being references of like, this is so illegal to have, it's, or like it's such a like a risk to possess and play even. So that was like very eye-opening to me because I personally like played the saxophone growing up, and I couldn't imagine like that being not allowed, or like jazz being not allowed. So
Yeah. Also going off that a little bit, I feel like I just had this assumption that like Russia doesn't like the West because that's just reiterated over and over, like past and contemporary times. So it was cool to see this, see that like people in Russia like coveted Western music and art and like wanted desperately to like have it and enjoy it, and and sought inspiration from it and vice versa. Like it's cool. What was your favorite scene in the lie, Tanya? Почему?
Oh my.
Or a few favorite scenes.
I think my favorite scene was when Mels was like learning the saxophone, and at some point it's like a montage, and like a very famous American saxophonist is like jamming out with him, and like that grows to like him becoming a really good like saxophone freestylist. And just like I think the imagery in that, like he kind of transports into like this bright and light, it seemed like New York City skyline, and I just like thought that it encapsulated like big dreams, and it was, I don't know, it was really beautiful.
I have two that stand out to me. I love when Mel was looking at the sexual images in the Kama Sutra, like those little hand-drawn illustrations, thinking about Polly, and then later when they make love, it like montages the Kama Sutra. Like you look through the keyhole expecting to like get a voyeuristic look at them, but you just see like the Kama Sutra.
It's really silly. So funny, and it was really cute and like wholesome.
Yeah, like just sweet. And then another scene I really liked was when the culture police, I can't remember their name, finds Mel and Polly at the jazz concert. Yeah, and they like hold her down and they cut off her hair, and there's nothing he can do about it because he's being restrained. And in that moment,
she's pregnant at the time, and I thought that was just like so heart-wrenching that they did this and humiliated her, like despite how human she was.
Yeah, but she like manages to keep face and laughs at them, like screaming insults even like as they walk away, and then once they're totally out of earshot, like her laugh turns into crying, and I just thought she was like so strong for that.
Exactly. That was like a favorite scene in a like very like heart-wrenching way. I guess like she didn't even like insult them. She was like, "Oh, you're such a good barber. Like, let me come to you again." And so that was just like a very graceful way of taking it. Because if that ever happened to me, I'd be fucking pissed.
Yeah, hair holds a lot of just identity in it a little bit. We have a classmate though whose mother grew up in Bulgaria, and the same thing happened to her. They like held her down and cut off her hair. So it happens.
And I guess the next question was like, in your opinion, what is the director's message and how does it relate to today? This was a hard one because the ending of the movie, it really confused us for a second, because basically Mels and Polly, one of their old friends who was one of the Stiliagi, the hipsters, he became a diplomat and went to the US for a few years, and then he came back and visited, and he told Mels that, oh, like people don't dress like you in America.
The hipsters don't exist.
Yeah, the hipsters don't exist. And he took it very poorly and was like, get out of here,
It was like a breakup scene.
Yeah, it was. And then in the end, since it's a musical, it was like a Das Vidanya type of song, and him and Polly are like in the street singing, and they get, I guess, surrounded by the newer generation of what you might call Stiliagi or hipsters, and it's like more of the like punk rock alternative look. And well, for a while we were like, what does that mean?
I especially didn't get it, but you had some insight.
And so eventually I was like, maybe it was like kind of an ode to an era, and as well as like saying, since we enjoy this, we can continue looking like this because that's what we love and that's what we want to keep expressing ourselves as, even though like the new Stiliagi is different. Like they were still in their like 50s like Americanized look, and so that's what I think. I think the director's message is just like there's a romanticization of like, you know, loving a time and being able to express um, your love for that time by dressing like in a certain way or enjoying that era's music and culture, and it doesn't matter, like you should be able to do that regardless.
Yeah, thinking back to, I've been thinking about it, and I think Mel too had the impression that like the Stiliki were something like American, something other. And then in the end, he kind of finds out that it's actually like very Russian and his community's style and art, and finds some comfort in that. But yeah, it was very much a film about like just like an ode to that time and that scene, bringing some color and music and joy to it. What questions are you left pondering about after watching this film?
I guess I want to like read up on the statistics of how often this happened, if they're available at all, because there were so many scenes where like even one of the other hipsters, he went by Bob, which might have been like an Americanized nickname, but his parents caught him teaching Mels how to dance like a American 50s style, and the dad was like scolding him, and he was like, we have an uncle that Adolf, who got arrested and served time in prison just for his politically incorrect name. And so they like make all these examples of people going to jail for like the smallest reasons. And I just would like to know like how often that happened and how prevalent that was in these times.
Yeah, one thing I've left pondering, and I often am after watching a Russian movie, is the love they depict on screen is always a little bit different from like the love arc I'm used to, because we even watched Moscow Does Not Believe in Tears together. Mm-hmm. And in both that film and this one, you kind of see the love arc degrade a little bit at the end, or maybe just become more realistic. Because Mels and Polly have this big love arc, and then at the end they have their baby, and now she's like the cranky wife who's like, "Be quiet, stop playing the sax, the baby's sleeping." So I was left with a sense of like, oh, their love kind of depleted. But then at that very last scene when they're walking through the dancing hipsters together, they like reunite again. But it just leaves me feeling uncertain of their relationship a little bit. I'm wondering what you think.
I just have something to add to that, because even during both those love arcs, there's like this section of humiliation or like that love still conquers. So in this movie, Mels like totally gets pranked by Polly after he confesses his love for her, and he like totally just gets over that humiliation and still pursues her. And if it were me, I'd be absolutely mortified and hate her, you know. and even in Moscow Knows No Tears, the the main character in that movie, she has like a much higher ranking job than the man that ends up courting her. And when he finds out, because she doesn't tell him, because like his beliefs are like, oh, a woman, you know, I should be more successful than my spouse. Like that was obviously humiliating for him, and they still, you know, went above that. And so it was just interesting, because you wouldn't see that in like a Hallmark American movie, really.
Yeah. They have quite a bit in common. Both of the birth scenes were very similar. When like the party of guests comes in the snow to meet the baby at the street, and they're all drinking. It's awesome.
I didn't know that was a thing in the Cinematography. Oh, like yeah, everyone gets super lit when
I think so.
Because everyone's just like taking shots, and that's how they're celebrating. And yeah, even though we might have the same amounts of celebration, it's definitely like not, you know, bringing vodka to a hospital.
It's more so like carry the mother gently, take her bed.
Yeah.
And then also the theme of like a stepfather embracing a child of his own. It was in both movies, and I thought that was sweet. I can't think of American films with that easily.
Yeah, me neither.
And it's cute to see that because we both kind of experienced that in our own lives. Last question, how does this film compare, we kind of talked about this, or contrast to other films that you've watched, Russian, American, or any other culture?
I mean, can you think of anything else?
Yeah, right off the top of my head, like period musical pieces like Hairspray, like lots of color, twirling dresses, silly outfits. And then we watched another Russian film named Lieta about Victor Tsoi, and it was kind of the similar, like some songs intertwined every now and so often, kind of silly cinematography at points. Cool. I really like the musical scenes in this movie. They were super silly. The opening one with the father.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I normally don't prefer musicals, but this one was a really good watch. So I enjoyed it a lot.
Cool. Any final thoughts or anything else?
No, I think I've said everything I wanted to say.
Все, хорошо. Thank you for watching.
Спасибо большое.
Спасибо большое.
До свидания.
До свидания.